Hello everyone!
I'm Haruto Nakamori and
I'm Hideo Yodoya
from
Kansai Soka High School in Japan.
First of all, we would like to express our sincere appreciation for this wonderful opportunity.
Today, we'll give a presentation on the power of dialogue for nuclear disarmament. August 6 and 9, 1945, lives that were normal and filled with happiness were destroyed by just 2 nuclear weapons. About 210,000 precious lives were taken in an instant. Even those who survived were forced to live difficult lives due to after effects and discrimination. What makes nuclear weapons so different from other weapons? The difference lies in their very nature. Nuclear weapons are inhumane by design. They are cruel instruments of mass destruction, created to kill countless innocent civilians without distinction. This complete disregard for human life and morality is what makes them so terrifying. Moreover, another cruel aspect of nuclear weapons is radiation poisoning. Many survivors of the atomic bomb suffered from cancer and other long-term illnesses, and even their children were affected. At that time, false beliefs and discrimination spread, such as the idea that radiation can be passed on. Nuclear weapons not only took away loved ones, but also stole people's hope for life.
After 80 years, Hiroshima and Nagasaki have rebuilt their cities and restored their beautiful landscape. In addition, the Peace Memorial Museum, the tale of the tragedy of the time, as the name of these 2 prefectures have become known around the world. On the other hand, as time passes, people's memories fade. The honor of nuclear weapon is gradually being forgotten as something from the past. The same is true in Japan, except for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There's very little emphasis being placed on nuclear weapons in education. Furthermore, the idea of nuclear deterrence, which comes from the time when nuclear weapons were first created, is still being discussed today. Nuclear deterrence is the idea of justifying the existence of nuclear weapons and using their threat to check other countries and maintain temporary peace. However, we must question this idea. Nuclear deterrence is nothing more than a dangerous gamble with the survival of the world at stake. If a terrorist or desperate leader of a nuclear-armed country uses a nuclear weapon, other countries will strike back, and the world will surely be destroyed. Nuclear deterrence is, at its core, only a temporary stability maintained through threats, and it cannot be called world peace. In today's society, the challenges surrounding nuclear weapons are not limited to these 2 issues. They are even more complicated. So now, 8 years after the atomic bombings, what can we do to achieve the abolition of nuclear weapons and realize world peace?
At Kansai Soka High School, we not only learn about various global issues such as nuclear weapons, but we also focus on how to apply what we have learned to take action and create solutions for the world. Our school offers several unique programs that encourage us to think globally and act locally. First, GRID and Global Citizenship Seminars are 2 key programs at our school. GRID, which stands for Global Research and Inquiry Time, provides students with opportunities to explore global issues through group research. In our senior year, all 300 students participate in the Model United Nations Forum focused on a specific global issue. Through these processes, we deepen our understanding of international perspectives and develop a truly global mindset. In the Global Citizenship Seminars, we invite distinguished guests such as professors, diplomats, and ambassadors from both Japan and abroad to share their real-world experiences addressing global challenges. These sessions inspire us to think critically and take action as global citizens.
Next, we have elective programs such as Fieldwork and University Partnership Program. In Fieldwork, students visit universities, high school, and historical sites, both in Japan and abroad, including the United States and Malaysia. These experiences allow us to broaden our worldview and build friendship beyond borders. In University Partnership Program, Kansai Soka graduates who are contributing to society in Japan and around the world share their experiences and inspire us to follow our own paths of contribution. Finally, there is a selective program called the Learning Cluster. In this program, all classes are conducted entirely in English once a week. Through group discussion, we exchange ideas about global and social issues and carry out research to deepen our understanding. We are also members of the Learning Cluster, so we would like to introduce one program that impressed us the most. About once a month, we have an online discussion with students from the University of Glenhamburg in Canada and Soka International School, Malaysia, which is affiliated with our school. In these discussions, we explore the ideas of our founder and the concept of global citizenship, which always led to very deep and meaningful discussions. Since becoming member of the Learning Cluster, we have not only improved our English skills, but also gained knowledge and awareness in a wide range of fields. Through these programs, Kansai Soka High School nurtures students to become global citizens, people who can think, research, and act for peace and the happiness of all humanity.
At the core of this peace education is the philosophy of the dignity of life, which is also one of our school's 5 principles. Around the time Kansai Soka High School was founded in 1970, bullying and violence were widespread throughout Japan. However, our founder taught us that every human being has an irreplaceable and precious life, and anything that threatens it must never be accepted. Even in times of hardship or conflict, this belief embodies the principle of the dignity of life, which also means that bullying or any act that hurts others must never be accepted. To make this idea more concrete, our school follows a guiding principle. Never build your own happiness upon the misfortune of others. Even if you achieve happiness, it means nothing if someone else is suffering. What truly matters is recognizing that both you and others have the right to be happy. Our school's guiding principle carries the hope that everyone can live in happiness. This belief is not only our lifelong guideline, but also the very foundation of peace education.
With this philosophy in mind, there are 3 mentors who have dedicated their life to the happiness and peace of all humanity. The first is Tsunesaburo Makiguchi. He lived during a time when the war was intensifying and countless people's lives were sacrificed in the name of serving the nation and winning the war. In Japan, military education was spreading everywhere. Students were even forced to make parts for guns and weapons, and military training was required in schools. However, during such a time, Mr. Makiguchi courageously opposed this system and spoke out firmly. He declared, "The purpose of education is not in words or strengthening the nation. The true purpose of education is the happiness of children." Despite the strong pressures of the era, Mr. Makiguchi never gave up. He fought against the evil of oppressive state power and upheld justice for the sake of all humanity's happiness. As a result, he was imprisoned by government and eventually died in prison. Yet, his struggle for peace did not end there. His spirit lived on, and one of his disciples rose again to continue his mission. The person is our second mentor, Mr. Josei Toda. Mr. Toda had looked up to Mr. Tsunesaburo Makiguchi as his mentor even before Mr. Makiguchi was in prison, and cherished him like a father. Their encounter began while they were both working at the public school. At first, Mr. Toda admired Mr. Makiguchi as an excellent educator. However, as they spent more time together, he became deeply moved by his character and his dedication to humanity. He supported Mr. Makiguchi's writing and peace activities with tireless devotion. Like his mentor, Mr. Toda was also in prison for standing up for justice and endured great suffering. What pained him most was witnessing the death of Mr. Makiguchi in prison. Seeing his mentor's body treated without dignity filled him with deep grief and indignation. At that moment, Mr. Toda made a deep vow to carry on his mentor's dream to realize true education and lasting world peace, even if it meant confronting the power of the state. After his release, Mr. Toda devoted his life to education and peace, steadily gathering people who shared his ideas. In the aftermath of World War II, as nuclear testing and the movement against nuclear weapons intensified, he issued declaration calling for the abolition of nuclear weapons for the abolition of nuclear weapons. This declaration, made in the wake of the atomic bomb tragedies, expressed his unwavering determination to eliminate nuclear arms and gave tremendous hope to those who had suffered as atomic bomb survivors. Among his disciples, there was one person who took his declaration deeply to heart and resolved to fulfill his mentor's dream.
The person who carried on Mr. Toda's dream was Dr. Daisaku Ikeda. As a young student, he personally experienced the tragedy of war. His eldest brother was sent to the battlefield and returned. 4 of his other brothers were also severely injured. Witnessing this pain, he made a firm vow. There is nothing more cruel than war. There is nothing more tragic than war. At that time, however, rejecting war was considered almost unthinkable in Japan. In those confusing days, when he didn't know what to believe, he met his lifelong mentor, Mr. Josei Toda. Dr. Ikeda inherited Mr. Toda's vision, the abolition of nuclear weapons, and the realization of lasting world peace, and made it his life's mission. He writes, "Nothing is more precious than peace. Nothing brings more happiness. Peace is the most basic starting point for the advancement of humankind." One of the ways he pursued peace was through dialogue. In the 1970s, during the height of the Cold War between China and the Soviet Union, when the world was deeply divided by ideology, Dr. Ikeda took the courageous step of visiting both countries. He met directly with leaders such as Premier Zhou Enlai of China and Mikhail Gorbachev of the Soviet Union, acting as a bridge to ease tensions between the two nations. Over the years, he also engaged in dialogue with world leaders such as Nelson Mandela, Rosa Parks, Joseph Lodbrod, and many others, building connections that went beyond politics and nationality. These dialogues are left behind as publications for future generations to learn about our shared humanity. Why did he value dialogue so deeply? Because he believed that dialogue connects people heart to heart. Even the great scientist Albert Einstein once said, "Remember your humanity and forget the rest." Dr. Ikeda often echoed this spirit, reminding us that at the root of all conflict is the loss of our sense of humanity, the forgetting of our shared goal, human happiness. He taught that true peace being when we return to the human being, when we see each other not as enemies, but as people who share the same wish to live in happiness. Throughout his life, he believed that value is born through dialogue between one person and another. And he never stopped engaging in it. He emphasized the importance of dialogue, returning to the basic principle that every person, whether an expert or a child, is equally human.
Therefore, we decided to conduct research on the role of dialogue in achieving nuclear weapons abolition. Through learning about the struggle of the three mentors we introduced earlier, we became convinced that dialogue is what the world needs most today. Based on this belief, we developed a research question focusing on the importance of dialogue toward nuclear disarmament. In this process, we conducted actual dialogue at Kansai Soka High School to further explore our research question. Our dialogue partners include 9 students and 1 teacher, a total of 10 participants. Through one-on-one dialogue, we collected qualitative responses. Before conducting the dialogue, we prepared 5 questions. For the analysis, we first transcribed the responses to the prepared questions. Then, we group similar responses into categories and analyze the data based on these categories.
Next, we would like to introduce the 5 questions we asked during our dialogue practice. The first question is, how do you think we can overcome indifference toward global issues? The second is, what does dialogue mean to you? And the third is, do you have any thoughts or things you know about nuclear weapons? The fourth is, what is a global citizen and peace? And lastly, what is everything you treasure? Furthermore, these responses were collected through actual dialogues where we asked the questions I mentioned earlier. We color-coded and divided them into 2 categories, yellow for dialogue and red for nuclear weapons.
And we conducted our findings and analysis based on this data. First, let me explain about findings analysis on dialogue. When we ask about dialogue, we receive the following responses. Dialogue is different, or debate or discussion. It does not aim to integrate opinions or decide who is right or wrong, but to accept and learn from differences. It is the power of one's strong determination, one's inner conviction, that transform a simple conversation into true dialogue. Unlike ordinary conversation, dialogue has a purpose. It is driven by the belief that both people can grow together. Dialogue is harmony. It is not about forcing one side to give up, but about finding a third way, a new path beyond extremes. Dialogue is a powerful tool to build human relationships and solve problems. Dialogue cannot exist without the heart that continues to care deeply for the other person. From these responses, we focus on 2 key elements, the essence of dialogue and overcoming indifference through dialogue. We will first define these 2 ideas and then share our analysis. First, I would like to talk about the essence of dialogue. When you hear the word dialogue, what kind of image comes to your mind? To understand it deeply, we compare 3 similar words: debate, discussion, and dialogue by looking at their origins. The origin of debate comes from D meaning beat down and bei meaning to fight. As you know, a debate is a fight of words. It usually has 2 sides, agreement and disagreement. And eventually, there is a winner and a loser. Next, the origin of discussion comes from this meaning appear and caution meaning to shake. A discussion is where people share and shake different opinions, and finally try to reach one conclusion. In other words, it is about uniting different ideas into one. Now, the origin of dialogue is different. It comes from dire meaning through and log meaning language. Unlike debate or discussion, dialogue is not about winning or reaching a single answer. It is about connecting hearts through language and overcoming differences. Through dialogue, we don't fight or force agreement. Instead, we open our minds to understand each other. Now, we will focus on another key element, overcoming indifference through dialogue. As this diagram shows, indifference means seeing things from a third-person point of view. There is no real connection between us and them. People start to think, they are different, so it is not my concern, or I'm happy, so it doesn't matter. This creates division, not connection. However, through dialogue, we can move from a third-person view to a second-person relationship between you and I. We begin to think, how can I talk with this person better, and truly listen to their thoughts. Through dialogue, we start to see global issues not as their problems, but as our own. From these findings, we analyze two main points. First, the essence of dialogue. We, we learn that dialogue means learning from each other's life and growing together. Its value does not end when the dialogue stops. It continues as both keep learning and changing through the experience. Second, dialogue helps us reflect on our own ideas. When we talk with someone who has a different opinion, we start to question and rethink our own thoughts. This process leads to personal growth and transformation. Finally, dialogue means believing each other's potential as human beings. It is not about thinking, this person is different, so I will avoid them, but rather, this person also has great potential. By trusting each other and growing together, dialogue goes beyond superiority or unifying opinions. It becomes a source of true human development. And when we thought about how to overcome indifference through dialogue, we realized that it all starts with a relationship between you and I. In today's world, where people's hearts are divided by indifference, I felt how important it is to build one-on-one connections. If more people share the awareness that we are all connected, dialogue can create interest instead of indifference and harmony instead of division. Through friendship and relationship born from dialogue, we can truly overcome indifference. In the end, we found that what matters most is the human connection, the willingness to work together with understanding and compassion.
Next, I will move on to the second category, findings and analysis of nuclear weapons. When we ask questions about nuclear weapons, we receive the following responses. People who use nuclear weapons don't realize how powerful they've become, and they don't take responsibility for it. Nuclear weapons leave no room for dialogue, are very inhumane, and even threaten the survival of humanity. Security that relies on nuclear weapons is not genuine peace. It is simply dependence on external power. True nuclear abolition means not only eliminating nuclear weapons themselves, but also eradicating the mindset that seeks to use them. Nations without nuclear weapons are forced to live in constant fear, which goes against our school's principle of never build your own happiness upon the misfortune of others. And nuclear weapons are inhumane arms that dull the user's sense of guilt and encourage the act of killing. From these responses, we categorized our analysis on nuclear weapons into two parts: the brutality of nuclear weapons and true nuclear abolition. First, about the brutality of nuclear weapons. The most brutal aspect of nuclear weapons is that they leave no room for dialogue. According to Mr. Iguchi, our teacher's paper on dialogue, he writes, "When we perceive our dignity to be at risk, we naturally seek to protect them ourselves, which can obstruct the openness necessary for authentic dialogue. In other words, dialogue requires mutual respect, but when we perceive the others as a potential threat, respect becomes difficult to maintain." This idea connects directly to how nuclear weapons destroy the very conditions for dialogue. In addition, from our dialogue, we analyzed that nuclear deterrence cannot achieve true world peace, and that nuclear weapons dull our sense of responsibility for mass killings. Next, regarding true nuclear abolition. One of the answers we received stated, true nuclear abolitions means not only eliminating nuclear weapons themselves, but also eradicating the mindset that seeks to use them. This idea deeply relates to the declaration made by Mr. Josei Toda, the second president of the Soka Gakkai, known as the Declaration Calling for the Abolition of Nuclear Weapons. In this declaration, he stated,
I want to explore and rip out the cross that lie hidden in the very depth of such weapons.
Anyone who jeopardizes that right is a devil incarnate, a fiend, a monster. Because we, the citizens of the world, have an inviolable right to live. The phrase expose and rip out the clouds symbolizes that act of removing the very mindset that seeks to use nuclear weapons. In other words, true nuclear abolition means eradicating the desire or mentality to use such weapons.
Finally, we would like to share what we have learned through dialogue. At first, we are afraid of having different opinions from others. However, through dialogue, we came to understand that differences are something we can learn from. One of us used to think that it was important to let the person we were talking with in the right direction. But through dialogue, we realized what truly matters is to listen carefully and try to understand the other person's perspective. Before engaging dialogue, we tended to see things simply as yes or no. However, we learned that it is important not to judge someone only by their opinion, but to respect and understand the process that led them to that way of thinking.
In addition, on August 9 this year, we had the opportunity to have a dialogue with Ms. Etsuko Matsuura, a survivor of the atomic bombs in Hiroshima. Here are some excerpts from that dialogue. For the sake of peace, dialogue is essential. It is important to sincerely believe in the person before us through persistent dialogue and to build a network of peace. Our mission as atomic bomb survivors is to share the reality of what happened. The mission of the younger generation is to listen, take it to heart, and pass it on to others. Let us plant the seeds of peace in each person's heart. They are stronger than any nuclear weapons. From Ms. Matsuura's words, we felt that peace spreads from the sincerity of each individual. We also realized that it is our mission as the younger generation to carry on the survivors' wishes and plant the seeds of peace through dialogue.
As long as dialogue exists, we have the power to change the world. But learning about global issues and deepening our compassion, from now, let's take action for world peace. You are the one who can help build a peaceful world together. We can make it real. Transforming ourselves where we are, inspiring those around us, and expanding the solidarity of happiness are actions that, however modest, will surely be the fight for peace that will change the world. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Let's have a great day of dialogue.